I was in a lot of pain, I had some neurological problems, and they told me if I didn't have the surgery, I would never walk again. So I decided against the surgery, and I thought I didn't want to live handicapped, I didn't want to be in a wheelchair, and I didn't want to be addicted to pain medication, so I thought, well, I might as well take a chance here. I believed that this voice kept coming up in my head saying, the power that made the body heals the body. And I thought, well, God, this power is an intelligence, and intelligence is consciousness. Consciousness is awareness. Awareness is paying attention. It must be paying attention to me. I think that most of us are philosophical to some degree. You know, we have a philosophy about life. But when you're initiated, I had to take what I knew and weigh it against what I didn't know. And I think one of the worst places we wind up as human beings is indecision. And so I had very, very strong authorities telling me, you're never going to walk again, you have a head injury, I don't know why you're deciding against the surgery. If it was my son, it would be on the operating table. Anyway, I checked out of the hospital and I began the process. I wasn't going anywhere, I wasn't doing anything. I was laying face down, and I said, I'm not going to let any thought slip by my awareness that I don't want to experience. And if this intelligence is truly a consciousness, I have to be present with it. And so what I did was I just started reconstructing my spine and my mind, vertebrae by vertebrae. And then, you know, I'd start off doing that, and the next thing you know, I'd start thinking about, should I sell my home, should I sell my practice? And I realized that the template, the design that I was creating wasn't complete. So I'd start all over again, get frustrated, then it would get harder. Because meditation requires being present, and that's a skill. You got to practice it. So I didn't have a teacher at the time. I was just going off my intuition, and it would take me 3 hours to go through the whole entire process just to complete it. And I'd start all over because I wanted it to be a complete model. So 6.5 weeks of just a dark night of the soul. Because I think when we're traumatized or we're under stress, we tend to focus on what we don't want to have happen and what we do want to have happen. And I think in survival, we're always preparing for the worst case scenario. So it was a battle that I couldn't get my mind to do what I wanted to do. At the end of 6.5 weeks, one day, I went through the whole entire thing without breaking my focus, and I swear it was like hitting a golf ball right in the sweet spot. It just clicked, and I clicked. And from that moment on, my body started to heal.
That's incredible.
I started to have less pain, my neurological symptoms were diminishing. And the moment I started to correlate the changes that were happening in my body with what I was doing inside of me, I started doing it with more passion and more enthusiasm. Anyway, I was back on my feet in 9.5 weeks. I was back training again at 12 weeks.
Come on! I
was back in my practice. You know, they told me that I would have to wear this body cast for a year, 6 months to a year. And, well, gosh, I put it on once and took it off and said, there's just no way I'm going to wear this. And so I just made a deal with myself. And the deal was, in those lonely nights where I couldn't sleep, if I'm ever able to walk again, I'll spend the rest of my life studying the mind-body connection and mind over matter. And pretty much that's what I've been doing. I teach people really a way to live a better life and to heal themselves of past scars, to provide the tools for them to realize that they're more than they really perceive themselves to be. And I believe that your personality creates your personal reality. So your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality who's watching this show has created the present personal reality called their life. Means then if you want to change your life, your personal reality, that means fundamentally you have to change your personality. That means you have to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and change it. You have to begin to become aware of your unconscious habits and behaviors and modify them. And then you have to look at certain emotions that keep you anchored to the past and decide if those emotions belong in your future. And I think after all these years, Ed, I think that most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it doesn't work. You know, you literally have to become someone else. So the process then, most people, they're thinking the same thoughts, they're making the same choices, they're demonstrating the same behaviors, they're creating the same experiences that stamp the same networks of neurons into the same patterns, all for the familiar feeling that they call themselves. And if you keep doing that over and over again, there's a principle in neuroscience that says that nerve cells that fire together wire together. So people begin to hardwire their brain into a very finite signature, into these automatic programs. Turns out by the time we're 35 years old, we become a set of memorized behaviors, emotional reactions, beliefs, perceptions, unconscious attitudes that function just like a computer program. So when people want to change, they're using 5% of their conscious mind, and they can think positively all they want, but the programs are running subconsciously telling them that they're negative. So the only way to do that then is to get into the operating system. And getting into the operating system of that, where those programs exist, requires then people beginning to do some inward work. If you sit down and you disconnect from your outer world, you close your eyes, we play some music in the background, you sit your body down and not smelling anything or tasting anything or experiencing anything or feeling anything, and you're not thinking about or anticipating the future or remembering the familiar past, that moment, that elegant moment where you fall into the present moment is where the magic happens. And so after looking at enough brain scans in the process of studying the transformation, I call that getting beyond yourself, because when you disconnect from your present personal reality and personality, now you're ready to create something else. And so what thoughts do you want to fire and wire in your brain? What behaviors do you want to demonstrate? And the act of rehearsing the behavior begins to install the neurological hardware in your brain, primes it to look like the experience has already happened. Your brain is organized to reflect everything you know in your life. Your brain is a record of the past. It's an artifact of everything you've learned and experienced in this moment. Feelings and emotions are the end product of past experiences, and we can remember experiences better because we remember how they feel. So most people wake up in the morning and they start remembering all their problems, and those problems are connected to certain people and certain things at certain times and places. The moment they start thinking about those problems, they're thinking in the past. Those problems have an emotion associated with them, and the moment they start feeling those emotions, the body, as the unconscious mind, doesn't know the difference between an experience that's creating an emotion and the emotion the person's fabricating by thought alone. Now, thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body. And how you think and how you feel creates your state of being. So most people's entire state of being, when they start their day, is already in the past. So you have a choice. The choice is, you're either defined by a vision of the future, or you're defined by the memories of the past. And when you decide to say, okay, I'm going to change, and you decide one thing: I'm not going to eat this food, I'm going to wake up earlier, I'm going to do something aerobic, I'm not going to have sugar after 6 o'clock, whatever it is, the person, whatever choice a person makes, the moment you make a choice to do something differently, and the hardest part about change is not making the same choices you did the day before, get ready, because it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel unfamiliar. There's going to be some uncertainty and unpredictability, and that's the moment the game is on. So then most people, their body has been conditioned emotionally to be the mind. So now the body says, wow, I'd rather hang on to my guilt than take a chance and possibility. I'd rather live in fear than trust in the unknown. So once the person feels uncomfortable, the body goes, whoa, wait a second, we're out of the program here, and body starts influencing the mind. So it says, start tomorrow, you'll never change, you don't have the money to do this, you're not good enough, your mother told you were this, your father's fault, it's your ex's fault, you know, all of the voices that come up. Now here's the deal, if you respond to those voices, those same thoughts as if they're true, by the way, they're always going on behind the scenes of your awareness, but now they're amplified because you're outside your comfort zone. You believe in that thought's going to lead to the same choice, which is going to lead to the same behavior, which is going to create the same experience and produce the same emotion, and the person's going to say, this feels right. No, that feels familiar. Going from the old self to the new self is a neurological, it's a biological, it's a chemical, it's a hormonal, it's a genetic death of the old self. And people will say to me, in that void, in that unknown, I can't predict my future. And I'll say to them, the best way to predict your future is to create it.
I love
Not from the known, but from the unknown.
I love it.
So close your eyes now and think about that vision. Once you start thinking about that vision of your future, you're activating the creative centers in your brain. And naturally, you begin to think about putting yourself in the scene.
Yes.
And the act of doing that, when you're truly passionate and truly present, the moment you're defined by that vision, when the thought in your mind becomes the experience, you begin to feel the emotion of the event before it's made manifest.
Yes.
Now, you're giving your body a sampling, a taste of the future. And now, if a thought and a feeling create a new state of being, you're combining a clear intention with an elevated emotion, and now you're beginning to change your biology, and you're seeing a whole new landscape that you could never see before, because you're no longer viewing your future through the lens of the past.
I love this.
Now, this requires then something really specific, because most people will wait for their wealth to feel abundance. They'll wait for their success to feel empowered. They'll wait for their new relationship to feel love. The absence of getting those things causes people to live in lack their entire life.
That's right.
And so they're waiting for something outside of them to change how they feel inside of them. And if they're not creating a new life, then they're not applying the proper principles, then they keep all their manifestations, all their dreams at arm's length. Well, think about this. If you get up feeling gratitude, if you get up feeling empowered, if you get up feeling whole, if you get up feeling unlimited, why would you worry about whether it was going to come or not? You would feel like it already happened. We're wired to create. This isn't something that you have to try to do. You just have to get beyond the memory of your past and all the associations to create a new future. Now, theoretically, that sounds really easily, but everybody's done it at least once in their life. What happened? You get a wild idea. You get a crazy idea, and you think, what would it be like to be happy? What would it be like to be in love? What would it be like to be rich? Whatever it is. And you all of a sudden you ask that question, and you turn on the creative center in your brain. It turns on. And then now the frontal lobe is the boss, it's the CEO, it's the symphony leader. And the frontal lobe, as an executive, has connections to all other parts of the brain. Now, when you ask that question, it's got to answer it. So it's got to look out over the landscape and see, what kind of raw materials do I have? Well, you only have a few things: knowledge you've learned and experiences you had. So it begins to call up different networks of neurons, and it begins to seamlessly piece them together, and you get a vision in your mind. That's called intent. And if you're passionate, you start to feel the feelings of when it happens. Now, you're giving your body that energetic boost. Now, everybody's done this. The moment you've said that, no one can talk you out of it. No person, no thing, no experience. You're possessed by it.